Okay, so some of the mysteries of last time's thing were clarified because there is some glitch with Python 2.7. Okay, so it has some thing which we don't want called an old type class. Okay, so I don't know why it exists, but some history behind this. So there's something called an old type class, which is what is creating problems.
Probably to just keep it backward compatible.
Yeah. Right, so all this stuff that we were trying to do with the super works only with the so-called new type class. So if I didn't check what Amri did, but
I just put the email which is
yeah.
sent with that part.
No, so basically the trick is that when you start defining a class ab initio, if you're going to define a new class, right, the only thing is you have to make this thing, you can't just define class point as I had said, you have to define class point and inherit from this internal thing called object. Right? So once you do this, everything that we were doing last time and were not able to get it to run works, including the super business. Right? So unless you do this point is a right. So unless you say it inherits from object, it doesn't call it a new style class internally. And if you don't do that, then this super business doesn't work. Okay. So that is one. So if I want to use super, first of all, I have to give super these two arguments, or at least one argument, but preferably two arguments. Okay. So you give the name of the class with respect to which. So I'll come to this in a minute. Okay, so the super with respect to endpoint is the parent that you inherit from, right? And then you give an, it's not completely clear to me why you need to provide the self, but let us just stick to the syntax, okay? But the main thing is that right now the picture that we have in that earlier thing is that we have this point, right? And what we did was we created two subclasses, and the difference between these two subclasses was only that they had a different definition of distance. One uses Manhattan distance, one uses Euclidean distance, but the internal representation was the same. So we said, okay, we don't want to keep redefining that, so we'll use all the get point, set point and all from the original. Okay? So what I'm saying is the first thing is that you have to kind of explicitly tell Python that this somehow comes from this object, otherwise this super thing doesn't work properly. Okay, but having done that, then everything works. So now what happens is that inside endpoint I only have to define, sorry, one second. Hello. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I can't do that. I can't do that. Okay. Yeah. No, it's okay. Let him go home. Yeah, it's fine. As is, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fine. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I had given him money. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
But can you explain why there are two arguments passed to super?
Yeah, so not yet. I don't know at the moment why there are two arguments. So one thing we can check is whether this thing works. So I think. No, it doesn't need to pass self, because self I think is.
Because whatever the super does, it needs to make that itself, right?
Correct. Correct. So it's like saying self dot super.
I thought self knows what class it is in.
No, so I'll come to that in a minute. Okay, so there are two arguments to this. So one argument is, so the picture of this thing is actually that when we say So I have a much more complicated example which will explain this, but if I say super endpoint self, okay, so my understanding is that this self is a proxy for, okay, that apply super to myself, right? Because when you call init normally, you don't pass an object, right? It's always implicit. See, other things you would say self dot distance, self dot get point, self dot, right? So I think that is the other part of it which I am going to, this I am more clear about. Okay, so this part of it says so it's the parent of with respect to endpoint, in which case this case is unambiguous. Okay, it becomes ambiguous if I inherit from two places, and then I have to explain to you what happens. Okay. So this super, it's kind of left-handed. It says, it puts it one level. So what you want to say is invoke the version of point on self, right? You want to say that, but you can't directly say I want to invoke the version of point on self. What you want to say is invoke the current parent of endpoint. The logic for this is tomorrow if you change endpoint to derive from something else, then this part of it still refers to its current parent. So as long as the current parent does something sensible, it's fine. It doesn't matter if the current parent is no longer point but something else. Okay, so the reason you don't want to refer to point explicitly is that this part of the code doesn't have to be changed if endpoint if you change the name of that point to something else. It is still my parent. So parent is a more abstract. So super of endpoint is a more abstract way of talking about the parent than giving the name of the parent.
But you could change this argument, right?
Yes, now you can change the argument, and I will show you where it makes sense to change it. So in particular, if you want to go 2 levels up, right, then you can say super of point. Okay, but I will give you a more complicated thing than that. Okay, so today's class, but first thing is to get the super to work at all, you have to inherit from object. Okay, so now today's exercise, which I set myself and I solved on the way from CMI to here after a lot of hard work. So today's exercise is, so we had earlier defined 2 possible implementations of point, right, where one internally used xy and one internally used r theta, right. So this internally has instances xy and this internally has instances. So this was a starting example for this class business. And now I can assume therefore that they both have init, shinit and all that kind of stuff, but I will assume that these, since now if I cannot distinguish between these two, then if I want the x and y coordinate, then or set the x and y coordinate via this thing, I will have to assume that each of them has their own function as we had defined. In one case it just says self dot x, self dot y. In the other case it has to do this square root of x squared plus y squared calculation to set the r. Okay, and similarly to get the xy coordinates of r theta, you have to do this cos theta sin theta business, right. So this we had seen. Now my first exercise is to define a common descendant, right, this Manhattan point, which is going to define primarily distance, right. That's the essential thing that a Manhattan point did. But I am going to allow this Manhattan point to be represented either as an xy point or as a polar point, depending on how I set it up, right. So I am going to allow, so normally when I give a point, I give it, as so far whether we use xy or polar, we give it the xy coordinate. If it is not given, it's assumed to be 0, 0. But each of them takes that xy and does the appropriate thing. One of them just sets x to x, y to y. Other one sets r to square root of x squared plus y squared and theta to checking y equal to 0 first. It checks it to, sets it to tan theta, right. So that's how we did it. So now I'm going to have m point which will take 3 arguments. It will take, right, it's going to take x, y and t, okay, and t is going to be either xy or polar. So this says set up a point at xy with the appropriate type. Okay. So for this, now you can use this idea of multiple inheritance which Python allows, which says that so you have so you say class m point right. Now I want to define an appropriate init for this depending on what it gets, right. So here the init says it takes, of course you have to put always self, then it is going to take 3 arguments, some a, b and some type, right, and all 3 can, but now remember what I said before, that you have to have an order. So I mean a is optional, b is optional, t is optional, but you cannot not provide a and provide b kind of thing. But modulo that irritation, let us just say that we have optionally an x coordinate, optionally a y coordinate as before, and optionally a type, and my default assumption is that the type, if I don't know otherwise, is xy. Right. Now with self I am going to associate the old thing, which is if it is xy is going to be self dot x self dot y, if it is r theta is going to be self dot r self dot theta, and there is going to be some, I am going to keep track of what type of point it is. Okay, this is going to be important. Right. So I am going to say something like if t is, okay, so let me write it this way. So actually as far as setting up the point is either xy or it's not xy. Okay. So if t is not equal to xy, okay, then define it to be polar, whatever the person has given. If he has said whatever, some cylindrical, then too bad, okay, it is polar. I only know 2 types. Now I do this thing, so I say first self dot, so let me just come up with a name. Okay, this is a new attribute which is a string which I associate with this point saying I am xy or I am polar. Okay, so that part is easy. The second part is now I have to choose which init to use. If that guy has said xy, then I have to use xy points in it. If the guy says polar, I have to use polar points in it. Now how do I describe that and what is the sequence? Now this is what took me a long time to figure out. Okay, so the way that Python works in this particular thing is that the structure that I have is m point xy point polar point. Okay, but superimposed on this is the super of m point is xy point. Okay, and in this context the super of xy point is polar point. Okay, and don't ask me why, this is how Python does it, and the super of polar point goes up. Now I don't know how you can go up here. Okay, so this is an unsolved mystery as of now. Okay, but it goes in this direction, right? So it goes, so by default if I say super of the current class, it is the first of the classes I inherit from. Then the super of the second class, I mean, so to get to the second class in my list of inheritance, I call my super with respect to the first class in my list. Okay, so the syntax of this mysterious thing is now going to be, and it will become clear, I hope, when I write the syntax. So I will say if p dot type is indeed xy, okay, then invoke super of myself with the arguments a and b. So this says actually call the init in xy point. Okay, otherwise now this is the strange thing. Okay, so this is why I think what I explained previously makes sense.
Self dot p type or
Self dot,
the
oh sorry, yeah, sorry, self dot p dot, not p dot type, you're right. Very stupid.
this seems worse than just calling polar point dot init.
Yeah, so I think so. From reading the documentation, the logic that they had was that this is in a way a little bit more abstract than naming that thing, because if polar point tomorrow changes name to something else, it is still your second argument. But then of course you need to know your
But
first
then
argument.
XY
But you need to know
point
xy.
also
And no, so
changes.
this whole thing is in that sense
But
bizarre.
can you say something like super of
Yeah.
you could no, but you could say super of m point comma self dot.
You could, yeah, so I think you, well, I don't know, because in this context, super of m point, yeah, whether you can just say super of super, I don't know. So you can check, because it's supposed to, so this is where if you look at this mysterious documentation, now, where did we have that documentation? Somewhere we had this. So it talks about these versions of super. So it says it returns a proxy object that delegates blah blah blah. So I think I mean that what it returns, I think may help you to do this nesting super, but I'm not exactly sure what is the syntax of putting super inside super. Okay. But this much I figured out, that this, if you want to go up this hierarchy, this works. Okay. So therefore now if I said polar, it will actually be represented inside as r dot theta and so on. Okay. So now just remove all this for now. Okay. So this is my xy point. Okay, the whole thing except I've called it xy point. So it says self dot x, self dot y as before. Okay, and I've defined a dummy distance function. Similarly, I've said polar point, which derives some objects. So polar point and xy point are now two parallel objects. They don't have any connection with each other. And this one takes AB and it does this thing and it checks that A is equal to, yeah, it checks if A is equal to 0, it sets the theta to be 0, otherwise you get a divide by 0 error in this A tan.
Sir, still, I'm just understanding that.
Hmm.
So, we say super of something and self.
Yeah.
That means it goes to super of that particular thing.
Yeah, so I think it's playing multiple roles. So first of all, it's saying invoke that super on this object. So that is what the self part is doing. But it's also saying super with respect to what? With respect to self. So self is an object of this type. So in the definition of this class, I have given a specific order. So if I reverse the order of xy point and polar point in the class definition, the super order also changes. Then basic super becomes polar point, and super of, if I want to get a xy point, I have to say super with respect to polar point of self.
Okay, so instead of doing super, you can directly impose that particular.
Yes, you can do that, but then the problem with that, as we discussed last time, is that it's not quite doing the same thing, because it's calling the function, but it's not operating on self, right? Because init is a function which is supposed to take self as an argument. So you are supposed to say something dot init. So if you just say polar point, it's kind of like calling it as an external function. So that doesn't quite work. Right? So you need to call it as something which is implicitly like p dot distance. So you need self dot. So I don't know how to call that. Self dot polar point dot init. I don't know if that works or not. I have not tried it out, but I suspect it will not work.
You just put the self at the first time. I think you call it as polar point dot underscore unit of self comma a comma.
Yeah, but no, because init takes only 2 arguments. See, that's the definition of init.
No, unit actually takes.
No, the third argument is taken from the left. You can't pass it 3 arguments. You try to pass it 3 arguments, then it will get confused.
As an external function, I think it works.
Does it? Does all Python functions work that way?
That's how they do it in the stage.
Okay. So okay, so maybe Python functions work that way, but it should not. Normally, there should be a distinction between these two. But if that works, then you could do that. But anyway, this is the correct, according to Python, way to do it is to do this. Right. So here I have just done that test a little inside. Instead of testing it at t, I'm doing. So if I first take the t that gave that if that p type is xy, then I call it with respect to myself. If it is not xy, I forcibly set it to polar and then call it with respect to xy point, so it goes to polar. Okay. So now, okay, so now I have this thing. Okay, so if I want to define the whole point of defining m point was to define this Manhattan distance, right? So let me assume I don't know anything about how I am represented and how p is represented. So the whole point is that I had these functions which give me the xy coordinates. Right? So get point was a function which, regardless of whether it's a polar point or an xy point, should give me return a value x comma y. Right? And similarly for myself. So I get the px py for the point I'm given, right? And I get the xy for myself, and I do this. Right? So now, so let me ignore that. Okay, so supposing I don't define a get point here, then it should go up and get point from my parent. Right, that's the idea. Right. And likewise here. So here is the same thing, it's just an E point. So E point is exactly the same, right? So I give it 2 parents, xy point, polar point. I give it a type. If the type is xy, it goes to the super now with not with respect to m point, but it's to E point. Okay, and then it sets itself up. Otherwise, it sets it to polar and goes to the super with respect to xy point, which is polar point. So the init is the same. And distance, again, I've used get point to get the x and y, and then except I've used a different formula to report the value, the Euclidean distance. Right? So now if you run this, you have an interesting, what is my thing called? Int point. So this file, I currently call it int point.py. So supposing I say 3, 4 end point, right? Now by default the value is xy, right? So if I say m dot p type, it should say xy. M dot x exists, m dot y exists, m dot r does not exist, m dot theta does not exist. All very well. Okay. Similarly, if I say n is 0.45 polar, okay, then the n dot p type is polar, so n dot x doesn't exist, n dot y does not exist, but n dot r exists, n dot theta exists. Okay. Now, if I say P dot get point, oops, sorry, M dot get point, I get the coordinates, right, which is what I expect, right? Right? So M dot get point is fine. I say N dot get point. So remember, now N is defined in terms of r and theta. Okay, so now I get an error saying I don't have an x and I don't have a y. But I know it doesn't have an x and it doesn't have a y. I know it's r and theta. But the problem is that in its universe, get point also goes in that direction. So if I see, it's an object of type M point, right? So if I have now, if I have this picture and I go back and I have xy point and I have polar point and I have M point. Okay. So now if I have a function get point here and I have a function get point there, and I don't have a function get point here, right? Then if I call get point here, it starts searching in this same order. So it will first go here and then only go here, right? So if it encounters a get point, if it encounters a get point along the way, it will pick it up, right? So therefore, even if a point, if a M point, right? So if I start with an M point, okay, it remains of type okay. So the fact that I have used that in it has not in any way changed the type of the point itself. It is still an M point, and when I am in an M point, I have a fixed order in which I have to search. Okay. So we need to go back and actually correct get point has to be called depending on P type. So that's the reason I have to remember what type I am, because that type is not remembered anywhere else. Nobody else knows about this. If I just at the beginning said, okay, if you gave me an xy, I call that init. If you gave me another thing, I call that init, and I let it go at that, then I have no way of finding out later on whether I am an xy point or a polar point, except for the fact that if I try to access dot x, it will be not defined. So you have to do some complicated thing. Is my x defined? Is my y defined? Is my r defined? But there is no direct way. Whereas I am just recording it in that string P type. So now what I do is I go back to my code, and this is what I commented out. So now I say I have my own get point. Okay, and the only purpose of defining my own get point is to decide which super point to call, whether to call that get point or to call that get point. So if my type is xy, I call, like init, I call the super with respect to myself, which is the xy point's get point. If my type is not xy, my type is polar, then I must go to the polar guy's get point. So I must, so this is exactly the same sequence of calls as in init. Okay, so if you, right, so either I call super of M point or I call super of xy point. Right? So the same thing happens here. Either I call super of M point or super of xy point. Okay? So I am not writing any new code for get point. I don't have to know what I am, how get point works. But I need to know which of the two get points. So if I set myself up as a polar point, I must call that get point. If I set myself as an xy point, I must call that get point. Right? So that's the idea. So I need to basically, and the same thing happens here. Python is also, by the way, very irritating about. If one def is one less than the other def, then it gets very annoyed. So you better make sure that they're all the same and that tabs are actually spaces and all that. So Emacs puts tabs as spaces, but if somebody sends you a file which has what looks like a tab and you make it spaces, then you're dead. So you get all sorts of, and the thing is you get strange errors. It doesn't tell you that that's what the error is. Okay, so now this is my new thing. I just said that get point must also call the correct get point, right? And then everything starts working. Okay, so this is that usual that tan inverse problem, but or x sin theta, x cos theta. But okay, so this is crucial that everywhere now you have to, if you have something which derives from two different things, and the same function is defined in both, and your choice of function depends on some history of what you have done with it, then you must override that function and call the appropriate one, because it will only call by default the nearest one. Right? So this implicitly looking up in the inheritance hierarchy only goes to your own super. So if you want to go anywhere else, you must call it, and then if you have to make a choice, then you must have some way of indicating that choice. And now, having done this, I claim now that distance will work, because distance, the only thing I need from distance is that get point works correctly. Okay, and it works correctly in both directions, whether P is a M point or an E point. Okay. So I claim that if I say m dot distance n, okay, then I should get the Manhattan distance, right? Because m is a distance, m is an m point. So this should give me 1 plus 1, 2. 3, 4 minus 3 on the x coordinate, 5 minus 4 on the y coordinate, it will give me 2, it's almost 2. Okay, and if I go the other way, I should get the Euclidean distance. So it's not symmetric anymore because the two distances are computed in different ways. So I should get square root of 2. Right? Does that make sense? Right? So there are still some fuzzy things about that super syntax, but this is two crucial things to remember. One is you must make sure that the original thing calls the object, otherwise super thing fails. And then if you are going in this complicated way of deriving multiple things, then you better make sure that you are calling the correct one by using the appropriate argument to super. Okay. So now So now the other nice thing about Python and some other languages also are these kind of what they call magic functions. Okay, so we already seen one magic function which is kind of automatically, so init is automatically called when the object is created. Okay, but there's a whole bunch of such things which are implicitly called in certain contexts. Okay. So one other one is which there are two which are similar. Okay. So this str which is so a function like print, right? What print does when you use Python is print automatically calls a function. So str is the function which converts its argument to type string. Right? So str of, you can use it for numbers, str of 7.
Why should str be different from vector?
Yeah, so that's a philosophical thing which people have asked. Okay. So str is basically supposed to be a human readable form of the object. So str is supposed to give you a string. Okay. So for instance, we could now take this thing and we can say that if I have an xy point, okay, then I define
But rector you may pass to something.
yeah. What do I want to do? Well, in this case, I know that self dot get point gives me a pair of values x comma y. I just convert it to a string and send it back. Right? So this is a difference from. So the difference is now I am printing a. It's like it's a string. It's no longer a value. I can't say a comma b equal to this because it's not a pair anymore. It's just the string representing the pair. So it's what I see as a user of the program, right? Let me use your. Right, so if I say so maybe I should just get out.
Define M again
Yeah, I should just.
because the sem is still old.
Right. So basically, str of m is the string 3 comma 4.
So print prints the string and not the reference.
Yeah, print
If
prints
you just
the
type M, you get the reference.
Yeah. So if I just type m, I get some strange thing. Okay. But now usually the rule of repr is that it should give you a function, a representation of the thing which you can then internally manipulate. So typically what it suggests is that repr should give you the string which you use to create the object. So it should give you something like m.3 comma 4. So this also returns a string. Okay, but it should be something which as a program you can execute that string and recreate that object. So it's supposed to be a representation. So typically this should be like this might be like 3 comma 4. Right. So this is a suggestion. There is no hard and fast rule about this, but so they are sometimes it uses one, sometimes it uses the other, and I think if no string is there, it uses repr. I am not very sure about all these things, but these two functions are there. Okay, but these are not the ones which I am particularly interested in. But there is a whole bunch of these functions. So these are all magic functions. So now there is a nice magic function called add. Okay. So basically, if I now write p plus q in an expression, and p and q are objects, this will call implicitly will call it, right. So I can now, for example, supposing I want to define for points addition as being the point-wise, coordinate-wise addition. So if I add 2 points, I get a new point whose x coordinate is x1 plus x2 and whose y coordinate is y1 plus y2. Right? So if I take a list of points and I add it and I think of them as displacements, this is the net displacement of going through these vectors. Right? So if I want to do that, then I can define an underscore add on my in my class. Okay. So this is my add, and there is a similar thing for multiply. Right? So add, now what I say is that adding another point to myself is the same as getting that guy's x coordinate, getting my y coordinate and producing a new point. Right? This is the crucial thing now. This add is a very abstract thing. It takes 2 points and produces a point. And the goal is that the new point has coordinates whose position is the sum of the coordinates of the original points. Right? And I have defined in this case multiplication to be some kind of dot product. Okay, so I take 2 points and I take the dot product of these two, and so this is now an implicit thing for add. Okay, and this add is again inherited, so I don't have to define it separately for M point and E point. This is defined currently inside XY point. I could also define it in polar point, it doesn't make any difference. Okay, it will search for it. If I do plus, it will search for underscore underscore add. If it doesn't find it, it will say sorry. Okay. So at this point I have not yet defined it in the code I have written. So if I say n is equal to E point, if I say m plus n, it says there is no plus. Okay. But if I the other form, this is a different file. Okay, so it is defined. Okay, I can assign it to another point. Okay, and then it will have its own. It will be a point. Right. So this is extremely useful for kind of things where if you now that you defined this, so supposing you want to compute displacement of a sequence of points, you put them in a list and you write a function, you just call a function which just sums the list. But because plus is defined in a sensible way for the list objects, in this case points, right, it will give you actually the net displacement of the point. Right. So this is what is used, I mean it's called in programming languages called polymorphism. That is, you have the same basic function which is to take a list of objects and add them up, and the addition means different things for different contents. So for strings, it means, for strings you know that plus ABC plus DEF is a string ABCDEF. It is a list operation. So if I do sum of a list of strings, I will get one long string. So now if I do with this sum of a list of points, I will get the net displacement of all these points. Similarly, if I do multiplication of this thing, it will multiply them all, but then I am in trouble, okay, because if I multiply 2, I get a scalar and then I can't multiply anymore, right. So you have to define it so that the type is correct. So multiplication of a list, if it presumes, I mean if you do numbers, it will multiply the 2 and give you back a number, you can continue the process. But in this case now multiplying 2 points gives me a scalar and I'm out, right. So if I say P star, I mean M star N, I get. Yes. Yeah. So again, it depends on the. Yeah. It's not by def. In this case, because they both inherit, it's commutative, but it need not be. Right. It will call the. It's a short form. So the operator that Python, the arithmetic operator goes there, and that arithmetic operator will call the corresponding underscore underscore function that is defined for that thing. So there is a map. Okay. So it's kind of, I found some website, I'll send it to you also, but if you search for this.
You could define left multiplication and right multiplication.
Yeah.
Then I don't know right.
Yeah, so there is, I found this.
Define right multiplication.
Okay, so I found this somewhere.
Oh,
okay.
Awesome.
So in particular, I mean there's a whole bunch of these. I mean, so there are these, so these functions will define, if you want to define an ordering on points, right, or whatever object you have in some complicated way, then you can separately define all these. They don't have to be compatible also in some sense, right. It doesn't guarantee you that greater than is not or less than equal to and so on, right. So whenever you see less than equal to, it will call that function. Okay. Now you can of course internally shortcut it. You can say that if I have defined underscore EQ, then underscore NE is not of underscore EQ, or if I define less than, then greater than equal to is not of that. But you have to do that. It's not automatic that these are interconnected. So you have these relationship operators. Okay. Then we have things like what to do with unary, positive, negative, round, floor. All these things you can build in So add is what we just did, mul is multiplication and so on, right. So therefore now with any two objects that you create, you can pretend and use them in arithmetic type expressions if you have an interpretation for that arithmetic operation for that object. All you have to do is in that definition of the object, create the appropriately named function and then it will work, right. So you can write this fairly uniform arithmetic looking code over any object which supports this, and I think this is extremely useful for especially these kind of, I mean the kind of applications that Sage or something is interested in, because there you would like to overload this plus to mean plus in different contexts, right. So if you have matrices, then plus will mean entry wise. So times for matrix multiplication, you can have a class matrix and you can just define mul and it will do matrix multiplication. So this is a very useful extra thing, right. So I think these are the two things which I wanted to do today. I don't know if there's anything more. So I wanted to illustrate one thing. Okay, so just to illustrate the fact that it doesn't know where it is. So in addition to this p type, right, which I am setting, I defined in both polar point and xy point, I defined a function which says I am a polar point. So it's a point type, right. And there also, there's a point type says I am an xy point, right. So inside xy point, I defined a function called point type which says return xy. Inside polar point, I defined a thing which says return polar. Okay. So now, I go back to this thing. Okay. So I know that internally this one is represented as xy, and therefore it has x, it has y, but it does not have r, does not have theta. Okay, and conversely I know that n dot p type is polar, so it has r, it has theta, does not have x, does not have y. But the fact that it doesn't know what it is otherwise is that if I do m dot point type, I get xy as I expect. But if I do n dot point type, also I get xy. Because point type is a function, it's like that get point earlier. Point type is a function which is not defined inside e point or m point, which is the bottom thing. It is defined above. So it will just go to the leftmost definition of that, regardless of where you are. Right? So that's why the setting all this stuff is only for your own clarification. It doesn't actually change anything to do with the type of m or n. They have a different internal representation because you set it up differently, but that doesn't change their internal knowledge about who they are. Right? So if you want to give this point type, then again like get point, you have to say if my internal variable says xy, then I go up, but then you might as well just say it in this case because it's a simple thing. If it is xy, print xy. If it is okay. So but if you don't do that, you can't rely on the fact that the same function will be called. So the fact that you're calling init of a class doesn't make this thing have any special status with respect to that class. It doesn't set any characteristic of that class. Right? So the fact that you use polar point to initialize n doesn't give it any special status as far as polar point goes. It's still in the order whatever point it is, then xy point, then polar point. So that's something you have to be careful of. When you're relying on this implicit function coming, it's always in that fixed order, unless you explicitly override it with super, in which case you had better write the code carefully. Right? Yeah, so there's a whole slew of these things which so I'll send you a link. I mean, I think you search for some magic method and you should find this page. Because I thought it was plus and I was getting, nothing was working, then I found it was add, that underscore. So okay, so I don't have anything more new to say. there's anything that you are confused by, then it's probably a good time to ask it. But otherwise, I think the good thing to do. So I have an exercise this time. I mean, it's
Maybe for the long weekend you can
yeah.
do this.
So I'll give you an exercise which will exercise all some of these things. Not necessarily this multiple super, but at least these implicit things and some work with classes. I can send you an exercise.
So at least it looks like a lot of people are not convinced about this super.
Yeah, see, the super thing is, as I said, it's a double-edged sword, because you are kind of playing with this idea that you want to inherit from multiple things. Now, sometimes it's useful, but if the two things are not orthogonal, then it's confusing. See, if you are inheriting orthogonal properties, as I said last time, if you are inheriting some, say, some
Not
numerical quantities from one thing, and some ability to, or two different sets of attributes, like, as I said, if you have xy coordinates as one part of, so suppose you have a colored point, right? So now you might have a class called color, which sets some color RGB value or whatever. In some notation, it sets a value, and it says if the value is this, then choose this and display a point like this. And another thing which says if my position is xy, then put the point at this place on the screen. Now you want to combine these two to give a way of displaying a colored point. But it's very clear that these functions are different. The ones that manipulate the coordinates, the one that manipulates the current colors are different. So long as you're inheriting from two classes C1, C2, and C1 and C2 are doing orthogonal things, then there's no doubt when you call a function which you're calling. Right? This whole issue about, oh, am I going this way or that way or up, down, it doesn't make any difference, because that function is either here or there, but not both. Right? So things which manipulate colors, make the blue deeper, will not change your coordinate. Shift my xy by something will not change the color. But it's only when we have issues like this, where the same get point is defined in two places, there are actually two representations of the same thing, they're manipulating the same data but in a different format, then you confuse yourself and Python. Okay? And then the super business has to be sorted out. So in most cases, you would not be doing this kind of tortuous super thing. You will just say, so the default for super is super of my class, comma self. Right? If I am sitting in class C and it inherits from a bunch of other things, you always say super of C, comma self. So just think of it as a mantra, super of C, comma self and whatever. Then it will go up and find it. Okay, but it's only when you have this complicated thing that you have to say, oh, it's not C, but that guy is super or that guy is super or something. Then you have to worry about it. But it should not normally, you should not normally need to do this, I think. I mean, I had to come up with this, it took me a while to come up with this convoluted reason to do it. But typically you would not. When you inherit from multiple things, is usually because they are doing different things.
Also, when you inherit from multiple things, it's probably not so bad to explicitly name which ones you're doing.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm saying that usually the reason you inherit from multiple things is because you are inheriting different properties from the two
one
classes.
One of the rationales for super was that, what is the parent, you just want to change the parent. But if you're
No, so one of the rationales for super is that, as I said, in this real object-oriented world, right, you are allowed to extend classes which are defined in the language.
right.
But you are not supposed to know how, say the core Python or Java implementation actually represents a dictionary or a list or something. So you are not supposed to know any internal details. So you have no way of setting up that object except to tell the language to set it up. And then you want to add, like here what we did was we said, okay, give me a point with these xy coordinates, however you want, and I'll add a string which says p type. That's my extra contribution. So you can add new attributes, but for the attributes which are already present, you rely on the fact that it's given to you. So that is really the motivation for the super thing, that you're not, so the being able to inherit from a class is different from being able to modify that class. Because it is expected that there will be some library of classes given to you,
No, but
which
if
are
you don't use super, if you explicitly name that class and say dot init,
yeah, so that comes back to how Python interprets this third argument, right? So that, or whatever, the extra argument. So Python seems to allow you to flexibly put self as the first argument and call it like a function. So self dot f a, it seems to be equivalent to f comma self, f of self comma a, right? But this is very specific to Python. No other language will do this. So in other languages, there's no way to pass the self unless you call it with respect to an object. And now when you call it with respect to an object, inside that the status of write, see normally when you write a class like math.py, okay, or math.square root. So these are functions whose existence you don't need to have an object of type math to execute math.square root. Okay, these are kind of the normal functions. These are the functions you are used to in other programming languages which always exist. Right? Whether you use them or not, they are there. Whereas functions like p.distance only make sense when I first defined p. So there is an abstract notion of distance which is defined somewhere, but there is no concrete function distance I can call unless I first create a point. Okay. Whereas if I say point.distance, then that is the function which is defined in point, which is always available to me. So what Python says is that basically this use of self in the definition of a function, I mean whether that first thing is implicitly used or not determines whether this function is global or it is a property of that object. Right. So in classes, built-in classes like math and all that, all those mathematics functions, a, tan, all these things are functions whose existence is independent of the fact that you don't want to create something of type math and then do x is equal to math.int. You don't do that. You just say x and then just keep going at square root of x. So that is the difference. And so Python is a bit flexible about its syntax, and then it allows these things which blur the distinction. But normally you would not do that. So if you use class.function, it means something else normally. It means what they call a static function, or a function whose existence doesn't depend. So typically in something like Java or something like that, input output would have to be that way. I mean it will have to be some function. I mean you can't say that to print something I have to first create an object of type print, and then it will be very cumbersome. So all these functions are typically but on the other hand, Java and Python doesn't insist, but Java insists that everything must be defined inside a class. See, Python has this thing that classes are there for your convenience, but you can just write def and go ahead with life. So when you say def, it's like you're defining a function which doesn't require you to create any class or something. Right? But Java doesn't have this. So Java, everything must live in a class. So then it's very important that you have these classes whose functions can be called without creating objects of that class. So if you want to be kind of a purist about this, then you have to go the extra mile to make it work.
So maybe it's underappreciated by those who program only in Python.
Yeah, so Python has a lot of very nice flexible features which make it fast to learn and go ahead, but a lot of these subtle distinctions get lost or blurred because the choice between this and that is not obvious, or why this and that, or two things might work the same way but they are not supposed to be the same thing. It's like it's an accident that they work the same way because Python has no way of distinguishing them. Right? So there is in particular, I mean one thing which I mean from other types of programming that you do. So the other place we typically use classes are to program what are called recursive data structures, like a tree. Right? If you want to define a tree of things, so one way of representing collection of values in a compact way to search is as a tree, that you put a value and then it has two children. A list has one next. If it's not here, go to the next guy. A tree will have a left and a right. And the rule is that if the value is smaller than the value I am looking at, it must be to my left, otherwise it's to my right. So you encapsulate this in a class. You say every node in the tree has three parts. It has a left, it has a value which you can look at, and it has a left and a right which are themselves nodes. Then you can go to the left, look at its value, its left, its right, and so on. Right? So this is fine. Now where does the tree end? Okay. Now the tree has to end somewhere. So there is if it's a finite object, so that thing has no left, no right. But in some sense, Python has no way of distinguishing between a non-value of type tree and a non-value of type anything else. It only has this one word, none. Right? So if you want to extend the tree there, it will say this is not a tree. Then you have to go through some hoops to create an empty node and then put it there. Whereas other languages where you can declare that my left child is of type node and it has no value, then it allows you to apply functions of type node onto it, even though it has no value. With Python, you cannot say it is of type node unless you assign it a value of type node. So this lack of type definitions can be cumbersome. So many of these things can bite you in ways which you don't expect, but for most things I think it's very convenient, and it's certainly for people who are using it as a tool and not as a major application building thing. These distinctions that don't matter, and then it's a huge advantage to not have to get all this bureaucracy of declaring everything up front and a lot of syntax. You can start programming in Python with very minimal preparation, whereas to digest a language like Java or C, you have to first digest a lot of syntax. So that is a nice thing about teaching Python. You can start teaching programming and algorithms from second or third class with very minimal background, whereas so it's like that. Okay. So anyway, so if you have come across any strange behavior, I'll send you an exercise today. Come across any strange things you don't understand, I'll be happy to try and investigate how it works.